Christmas time, one of the most joyous occasions of the year, and for Spyro it was something special. You see, ever since he and Cinder had grown into young adults and were living at the Dragon Temple under the watchful eye of Ignitus, amongst the other dragons that have hatched during the year of the dragon. He'd always wanted to confess how he felt for her, but nothing ever seemed to be like the right moment. But now he knew for a certain that Christmas was right around the moment. He had everything planned, and a present was back at his quarters. He just needed to talk to Cinder. Easier said than done, Spyro thought to himself as he walked down the halls of the temple. First, he actually needed to find her. As he continued walking through the halls, he accidentally bumped into Ignitus. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ignitus. I didn't see you there." Spyro chuckled nervously as Ignitus smiled. "It's all right, young dragon. Is there something on your mind? Aren't usually bumping into other dragons," he said as Spyro looked down. "I think so. It's about Cinder." He trailed off as Ignitus had a certain caring look. "I know what plagues your mind, young dragon," he replied as Spyro grew uncertain. "What if she says no?" he asked, almost as if Ignitus had known that what he was going to say. "Young dragon, you will find many of us cannot base our lives on what-ifs. Love is a beautiful thing, and I know that feeling, for I've shared it with someone else," Ignitus explained as Spyro looked more confident. "Thanks, Ignitus. I needed that." He smiled as Ignitus nodded. "Anytime, young dragon," he responded as Spyro walked off to continue his search for Cinder. Eventually he had found her, but to his displeasure, Nero had beaten him to her. But at the same time he was leaving her all by her lonesome, Spyro saw his chance and walked up to her. "Hey, Cinder," he said, with a smile as Cinder returned with her own smile. "Hello, Spyro. I was just talking with Nero. We are going to do some target practice at the dojo. Want to come?" she asked as Spyro swallowed the urge to say yes. "Actually, I came here to ask if maybe tomorrow you wanted to hang out. It's Christmas Eve tomorrow, and I've got some activities planned out, but none of my friends wanted to do any of them. And then I have thought of you," Spyro explained as Cinder's smile grew wider. "Sure, I'd love to," she replied, and that made Spyro's world light up. "Awesome! I'll prepare for us tomorrow. Just you wait, it'll be a blast." Spyro grew even more excited as Cinder giggled. "I'll be looking forward to it," she told him, but Spyro bounced it off, leaving Cinder by herself again. "Spyro sure is cute when he's happy. I just hope I've got the courage to tell him how I feel. He's been so kind to me all those years." She thought to herself as she went to go find Nero. Meanwhile, Spyro felt the luckiest dragon alive as he kept bounding down the halls. "Can't believe it. She said yes. I've got to get ready," Spyro said to himself as he entered his room. He made sure his gift was all set and peeked out of his door. He needed to go and set up his events he had planned. Then he noticed Ignitus was treading down the hall. Spyro made sure to close the door quickly as he could. He could go anywhere where he needed to be at the via window and flew out to prepare for the activity. Cinder had just finished her practice and she was heading back to her quarters. Being sure to avoid unwanted attention, including Nero, she opened the door to her room and saw a letter. She finally opened it and smiled when she saw what was in it. Spyro had given her time, place, and Cinder was certainly looking forward to it. She prepared herself for the coming event by pulling out her scarf for inspection. "If I know Spyro, he'll want to do some activities outside, so I find it best that I prepare myself," she thought to herself, and curled up on her bed. She looked out her window when she heard a thump. She looked curiosity and looked over at the balcony and saw Spyro. She didn't say anything, but kept silent. She noticed that Spyro had tripped over something, which was probably the cause of the noise. She giggled a little as she saw that Spyro was carrying what looked like skates. "What's he up to?" Cinder wondered, as Spyro went back to take out another pair, and then walked them both out to a nearby frozen lake, which continued to pique her interest. As she glanced down, she saw Spyro put on skates and stepped onto the lake. I don't think he understands that skates were designed for bipedal creatures. Cinder smiled as his first staggering attempt to use the skates, but he eventually got the hang of it. I'm betting this one is one of the activities he has planned for us tomorrow. This will be amusing for the both of us. She thought to herself. That's when she noticed that Spyro got out of the skates and placed them on the ground. Then she saw the purple dragon pull out a small wrapped box. He looked at it with a keen eye and then put it back in his bag. Oh, Spyro, what are you hiding? Cinder wondered to herself as Spyro walked further off and out of her line of sight. Where is he off to now? She muttered to herself as she figured out she couldn't ruin the entire surprise that Spyro had planned, and decided to return to her room and resumed her curl on her bed, awaiting for tomorrow. Come on, let's go! Spyro playfully dragged Cinder as she giggled in response. All right, slow down, purple boy, she replied as they walked outside into the snow. Cinder was wearing her scarf and the two were treading out into that frozen lake that Cinder had already seen Spyro at yesterday. What exactly are we doing here? She asked as Spyro smirked and pulled out the skates. Spyro, skates are made for bipedal creatures, Cinder informed him as Spyro shrugged. Trust me, you can get the hang of it, Spyro replied as he had her stand on her hind legs and put her skates on. Then he put down his own on, and then he gestured her to follow him onto the lake, taking her hand as she started sliding. Whoa! Cinder almost fell, but Spyro managed to catch her. Easy, take it slow, he told her as she blushed with her hand being held by his. Spyro grabbed her full of her hand, and the two of them gradually got more used to it. With them holding hands, Cinder was able to do it well enough for Spyro, and they managed to complete the full loop around the lake. You know, we should become a duet if we ever competed in skating, Spyro suggested as they took off their skates. Yeah, I think I'll stick to having 4 legs, thanks, Cinder replied wittingly as Spyro chuckled. I definitely agree, he responded, and then gestured with his wing to have Cinder follow him. Come along, there's more to do, Spyro informed him as Cinder grew intrigued. She had not seen what Spyro had planned, so she was expecting something very good. It was Spyro, after all. You're gonna like this, Spyro told her, as Cinder looked at him with interest. It was it when Spyro then ran off, leaving her confused. What in the... It was all that she was hit by the cheek by a snowball. Snowball fight! She could hear Spyro call out, as Cinder's tail flashed in anticipation. Is that a challenge? Well, I accept, she replied, as she leaped behind cover just as another snowball was being thrown. Ever so gently, she managed to craft a snowball almost perfectly, and then she threw it at Spyro, and managed to hit him in the face. Okay, I was going easy on you, but you asked for it, Spyro called out playfully, as he used some of his ice elements to craft more snowballs, being sure not to turn them fully into ice, and then threw at 2 of them. One of them hit in the tree and then Cinder was behind. The second one barely skimmed her waist. You'll have to try harder than that, she mocked him as she was prepared to throw another ball when she was hit right in the face with one, knocking her down. Aha, got you! Spyro was at first happily celebrating, but Cinder didn't get up. Cinder? He walked over. He had prayed he didn't hurt her. Cinder, are you okay? He asked. Suddenly he was pounced on by her and sent him to the ground, with her standing on top of him victorious. Okay, that was foul play, Spyro protested, as Cinder smirked. Well, if we're being honest, you never said that was what was allowed and what wasn't. Cinder's point made sense as Spyro had her get off of him. I suppose, but still, you took advantage of me, he replied as Cinder made a mocking expression. Oh, dude, I hit your feelings. Looks like your softness was your own downfall, she said in a smug tone. You're evil, you know that? He asked in a joking tone, which Cinder started to giggle. Not anytime soon, so what's next? Cinder asked as Spyro thought about what else they were going to do. He then remembered something. I know, follow me. I think I have one more thing planned. Spyro answered as Cinder grew more excited. Well, if it's short, I won't mind getting back in those skates, just as long as I'm not alone. She smiled as Spyro looked away so he could blush. They eventually reached a hill slope. What's this? Cinder asked as Spyro explained. Well, we're going to be doing some sledding, he told her, as Cinder seemed a little frightened by the steepness of the hill. Are you sure this is a good idea? She asked another question as Spyro nodded. Sure, I've done it plenty of times. My sled was made for 2 people anyways. If you want to ride it with me, he suggested as Cinder considered this and ultimately agreed. The 2 dragons stepped onto the sled with Cinder holding onto Spyro from behind as they both started descending down the hill. Woohoo! Spyro cheered in delight as Cinder originally closed her eyes in fear, but upon opening them, found that the activity was actually pretty fun, and she cheered alongside Spyro. The 2 dragons eventually reached the bottom, and the 2 of them were laughing in excitement. That was awesome! Cinder's enthusiasm caught Spyro off guard, but he enjoyed it nevertheless. Suddenly they started hearing footsteps and turned to see Nero, looking very unhappy. What's going on here? He asked in a very aggressive tone. Cinder quickly let go of Spyro and stood up. Hey Nero, we're just hanging out. That's what friends are for, right? He replied as Nero shoved her aside, causing Spyro to stand up quickly. It was then that Nero looked back at Cinder. Excuse us, Cinder. Me and Spyro need to have a little talk, he told her, and had the purple dragon walk a ways with him. It was then Nero grabbed him by the neck and thrusted him against a tree. Now listen to me, you little freak. I know what you're trying to do with Cinder, and I'll tell you one thing. She's mine, and if you get in my way, I'll make sure you remember that experience. Got it? Nero threatened as Spyro sighed. Where did you get the idea that she likes you? I doubt she even likes me, and even if that's the case, she definitely doesn't deserve someone like you, Spyro retorted as Nero growled. And if she deserves you? He asks, as Spyro shook his head. Far from it. She's too beautiful for either of us. Now let me go, Spyro suggested, and struggled, but Nero had lost his patience with him and slammed him through the trees. You imbecile! Cinder does love me! Nero punched Spyro in the gut, causing him to stumble a little, but Spyro proceeded to do nothing. Fight me, coward! He sneered as he uppercut Spyro, who still did nothing. His nose started to bleed. Eventually Nero bit Spyro to the ground, who still refused to fight. Why won't you fight back? He demanded, as Spyro refused to reply. It was then that Nero turned to see Cinder punch him in the jaw. Get away from him! She snarled, as Nero staggered back in surprise. She helped up Spyro and glared at Nero, and then proceeded to punch him in the gut, causing the black dragon to falter even more. But he tried to talk to her, but Cinder punched him again. I don't want to hear it. Leave, Cinder retorted as Nero tried to reason, but Cinder threatened to go even further with her shadow breath, causing Nero to run off. As Spyro stood up, Cinder inspected him and made sure to help and heal any wounds. I'm sorry about that, she trailed off, as Spyro sighed. No, it's my fault, he replied, as Cinder looked into his eyes. Did you mean what you said? That I was beautiful to you? She asked as Spyro blushed. Yeah, it is. You are so elegant and beautiful. I was really hoping to tell you sooner or later, he replied as Cinder herself blushed. Well, I'm sorry today didn't go entirely as you planned, she said with a bit of disappointed tone as Spyro shrugged. It's fine. Besides, I have one last thing planned for tonight. Meet me at the roof of the temple, he instructed her as they parted ways. Ouch, be careful. Spyro winced as Cyril placed some more of his breath made into ice onto Spyro's bruises. Now, young champ, this was entirely on you. If you didn't get in such a nasty fight, I may have to do less work, he replied coolly as Spyro looked away. Well, what time is it? He asked Cyril, who looked at the window. Well, it's past dusk, that's for sure, and the moon's out. We're all done. Cyril had finished patching up Spyro. Now try to stay out of trouble, young dragon, he reminded Spyro as he nodded and left the room. Now I just needed to find Ignitus and then ask him about something. He entered the room for a brief moment and saw the gift he had for Cinder, and prepared to find Iniquitous. Cinder sat on top of the rooftop in the temple, and wait, wondering where that purple dragon was. What could be keeping him? She wondered. It was then that she saw Spyro flying up to them with a few things in hand. 2 mugs, a blanket, and then a wrapped gift that Cinder saw yesterday. There you are. For a second I thought you'd ghost me, she said wittily. Of course not. I never do that to someone as beautiful as yourself, he replied, making Cinder blush. Then he handed her one of the mugs. I had Ignitius brew us some hot cocoa. He's really good at it, surprisingly, Spyro replied as Cinder blew on the beverage, then took a sip. Immediately she was drinking more than in delight. I assume you like it, Spyro asked as he took a sip from his own mug, then glanced up to see Cinder had a little chocolate ring around her mouth, causing him to chuckle a bit. You bet, she told him, as she licked her lips, and then the two sat staring at the 2 moons. Eventually Cinder made a move and scooted over close to Spyro, until she was close enough to lean her head on his shoulder, causing Spyro to blush. It was then that he put down his mug and moved for the gift. That reminds me, I have something for you. He handed her the gift, as she put down her own mug. For me? You shouldn't have. Her tone sounded genuinely surprised and delighted as she unwrapped the gift, and saw it was a box of some kind. Go on, open it, Spyro gestured, as she did so, and to her surprise it was an iron jewelry, a choker, 2 bracers, and a tail ring. I saw them and they were just reminding me of you, Spyro explained as Cinder took out the choker and placed it around her neck. Then she took out the bracers and put them on each of her respective arms, and finally she took out the tail ring. Spyro, do you want to help me put this on? She asked as he smiled. Sure, he said, and then he took the tail ring and locked it around her tail. Cinder then inspected herself. So, do you like it? Spyro asked, as she looked at him with a wholesome smile. I love them, she whispered to him. Then she glanced up and saw something that could help her repay his generosity. Spyro, she muttered to him, causing him to look her in the eyes, and he was caught off guard when she kissed him on the lips. Spyro's heart had skipped so many beats he thought he was going to pass out, but he returned the kiss. When they pulled back, Spyro was left dumbstruck. Does this mean? Spyro was silenced by Cinder's paw. Yes, it does, and also look above us. She had him look up, and saw the small plant hanging from a tree. What is it? He asked, as Cinder grinned. A mistletoe, she replied, as Spyro looked back down on her. I love you, Cinder. I don't want anyone but you, he told her, and Cinder leaned her forehead against his. I love you too. I'd be lying if I said otherwise, she responded as the 2 dragons kissed again. Once they pulled back, Spyro moved towards the blanket, and he had brought up and placed over Cinder to keep her warm as she grabbed her cocoa again. Let's enjoy this moment while the night's still young, he told her as he picked up his own mug and sat beside Cinder, who leaned against his shoulder again. In response, Spyro draped his ring across her back, and the 2 of them sat there, watching the snow falling gracefully. And that, my pretties, was The Twilight of a Dragonic Christmas, a Spyro fanfiction written by Niceguy42. So, my final thoughts on this story? I personally really enjoyed this story, to be honest. I thought it was a really good Christmas story involving Spyro. Now, I will have to really say is that it's a really amazing story, and I thought it was cute too. Now, I mean, I haven't played the Spyro games in like years, so I don't really know too much about the game. Well, I know about the game and stuff, but I definitely do have to really say is that it's a really interesting concept. Like I personally really enjoyed it a whole lot. I thought it was really good. So, in all due honesty, this was definitely a really fun story. I personally really enjoyed it a whole lot. I thought it was really neat and well done. The grammar was good, as well as the sentence structure and the storyline, so I was able to read this without a problem. Now, I do have to say, Spyro was a pretty good game back in those days. Most people probably have heard or played Spyro games. I mean, I have played Spyro like a long time ago. So I definitely do have to say it's nostalgic. And this story is just as good. I mean, I've seen a couple other Spyro fanfictions that I might consider narrating in the future, but that would probably be whenever I get the time and the opportunity to do them. But I definitely do have to say, to the author of this story, you did a really good job. I personally really enjoyed this story. I thought it was really neat and well done. It's definitely a really fun story, and I can recommend this story to anybody who is a Spyro fan and for those who want a Christmas story. So, as always, like I'm always going to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these stories. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. I'm gonna give this story a 10 out of 10. It's a well done story. It's a pretty cute one. I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was really neat. So I definitely do have to say to the author of the story, you did a really good job. And I definitely have to say, I would definitely read this story again. This story was just flat out amazing and really well done. So, anyways, with that being said, and with that being the case, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what would you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you enjoyed this channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you want to follow me on Blue Sky, follow me on Twitter, follow me on DeviantArt, and follow me on my backup channel known as Mr. Shigo, as links to those will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to really say about this story. If I'm missing something, let me know what it is, and I will be catching you all in the next video. Peace out, and like always, roll the outro because I'm out.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.